Talladega. And that's going to do it for topic number 8. We're going to move on now to topic number 9. We're going to head to college football, and the topic name is Irish Cash. Notre Dame paid $1.2 million to the Cincinnati football program to come to Notre Dame and play them. Cincinnati, who's a top 10 team, came in and beat Notre Dame. I'm a Notre Dame fan. Very impressive win there for Cincinnati. They are showing why they belong in that playoff team conversation. As you know, early this season, it's only been 5 weeks now in college football, but they belong in that conversation. They just showed why they did going into Notre Dame and beating them. So now if you're Notre Dame, you're like, we just paid $1.2 million to lose to a non-Power 5 conference school, Brandon. What do you think Notre Dame's thinking right now?
Oh, man. Well, first, before I jump into that, hey, give us a subscribe here. Give us a like. We're on a mission to 1,000 subs. We need you to hit that. So hit that sub button and hit that ring the bell, too, to get your content fed live to your page. But, man, I love the name here, first off. Irish Cash, man. Irish Cash. And that's what I'm thinking if I'm Cincinnati, that I'm just going to be enjoying this Irish Cash in my program for at least the next year. Because that money, man, is huge for a college football program going forward, either buying equipment or paying for travel or paying coaches. So this is huge to get that money. But on top of that, to go in there and then hand them a loss, right? A historical program like Notre Dame's, that's being like, hey, you're going to pay me, and then I'm going to come in there and kick your butt too. So it's like, the what? Like, I don't think Notre Dame expected that to happen at all. And I think when this agreement was made in the offseason, I don't think Notre Dame realized how good Cincinnati was going to be this year and that they were going to even be a top 10 team. So I think, this is a huge mistake by Notre Dame, obviously, and they're really feeling it, obviously, with the loss, but then with the major press that's coming from it, too, being like, wait a minute, you paid them $1.2 million just to play you, and then you lost to them on top of that? So I think this is, like I said, a deal that was made in the offseason where Notre Dame's like, hey, man, we play an independent schedule because they're not in an actual conference, so they get to play whoever they want, which is genius at times. At other times, it's idiotic. So that's a whole different other topic to jump on. But I think this is one of the times where it definitely came back to bite them, okay? And they were like, hey, yeah, we're probably going to get a win from this team. So, yeah, we'll pay you some money to come into Ann Arbor so we can play you. Why not? And then Cincinnati comes in there, shows their real might, and gets the win, like I said, against a historical team. That is Notre Dame. We all love them. But, man, I think this is big for college football. This is big, obviously, for the University of Cincinnati and big for Notre Dame. So they've got to bounce back from this, and they've got to bounce back quick. But, yeah, man, if I'm Cincinnati, I'm enjoying this Irish Cash, and I'm enjoying it as long as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Cincinnati, this was like you killed two birds with one stone here. You got a huge win against Notre Dame, who's also a top 10 team. And then on top of that, you got paid $1.2 million to go to that game and beat them and help your rankings by beating them. So just a phenomenal weekend for Cincinnati college football. If I remember correctly, Brian Kelly used to coach at Cincinnati. That's where he came from to get to Notre Dame, right? I mean, I can't remember 100% because he's been at Notre Dame for so long now. But,
yep.
Yeah, it's just crazy how these types of things happen. Unfortunately, this happens in high school football, too, depending on where you are. I know, some of those Last Chance U documentaries and some of those Netflix shows, they've shown teams that are, unfortunately, from poor communities, they go and play a team in a richer community to get on their schedule. They actually are paid to go and play, and sometimes they get walloped because they just don't have the resources, and it helps their program to get more money, but then the kids get smacked around. It's just a strange kind of dynamic especially down south where they do that a lot. Yeah, I mean, this is unbelievable that Cincinnati was able to get that money and get a huge win. Now they're in that national spotlight. They already kind of were, but that just helps build their resume to try to get towards the playoffs when they beat a team like Notre Dame. So, Notre Dame's probably like, I don't know where we go from here right now because they still have, a lot of Big Ten schools to play left in the season, Michigan State. They sort of play almost a Big Ten schedule, even though, like you said, they're independent. They have all that money because they're independent, and NBC airs all their games. It's the only college football team that plays, whose games are on NBC. So that's how they get all that independent money, and then that's why they don't need to belong to a conference. But this is sometimes the fallout from that, and we saw that over the weekend. So very impressive win for Cincinnati. I'm going to be rooting for them certainly down the stretch. I do hope they make the playoffs because I love seeing some of these non-Power 5 schools getting into the postseason because it just kind of sparks an argument. Are they as good as everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely an impressive win for them, and one that's great for their program, certainly. And it's one of those things where I'm curious to see who they play the next couple of games because I want to see if they can continue on with this momentum. But I also want to see if Notre Dame can bounce back from this major loss and maybe try to get themselves back into contention in the top 10 at this point, if they're even lucky at this point, because that was such a major loss. But yeah, I mean, definitely huge for the University of Cincinnati. And just quickly, because it's a college football topic and you talked about the playoffs, I mean, I think if anybody getting in the playoffs is going to have to deal with, obviously, Alabama and Georgia. Those are the two best teams in college football right now. And I think hands down, just separated from everybody right now. Just
absolutely
them and everybody else. So it's just really one of those things. I think Cincinnati still got some work to do, but I want to see who they're playing next, man. And we'll definitely keep an eye on them. But hey, rolling on and rocking on to our final topic of the night. Topic number 10, trilogy fight, man.